Not just a cover. How Jungkook turned Rolling Stone into a stage of global POW, or what if this was never about fashion? What if this was never about denim, lighting, or even a magazine cover at all? And what if the world completely misunderstood what happened the moment Jungkook appeared on not one, not two, but 3 Rolling Stone covers at the same time? Because when Rolling Stone UK, Rolling Stone Japan, and Rolling Stone Korea released their special editions with Jungkook as the central figure, the industry did not merely witness a celebrity feature. What unfolded was something far more calculated, symbolic, and disruptive. It was a declaration of power that crossed borders, rewrote cultural hierarchies, and quietly answered a question many insiders were afraid to ask out loud. Who truly controls the global pop narrative now? This is not a story about a BTS member modeling for a luxury brand. This is a story about how Jungkook transformed one of the most authoritative music publications in the world into a geopolitical cultural stage, and how a triple cover became an unmistakable signal that global pop no longer revolves around Western permission. Why 3 countries? Why now? And why Jungkook? The timing alone raises eyebrows. January 2026. Fresh out of mandatory military service. The industry expecting a soft re-entry, a cautious reintroduction, perhaps a nostalgia-driven welcome back. Instead, what they received was domination. Rolling Stone did not frame Jungkook as a returning idol. It framed him as an artist without limits, a phrase that would echo through headlines, fandom timelines, and brand boardrooms within hours. But here's the question no one dares to ask directly. Does Rolling Stone choose global power, or does global power now choose Rolling Stone? Because historically, Rolling Stone covers have served as validation. They crown legends. They certified relevance. They documented cultural authority after it had already been earned elsewhere. Yet in this case, the magazine was not validating Jungkook. It was aligning itself with him. 3 covers, 3 markets, 1 narrative. The United Kingdom represents legacy gatekeeping. Japan represents precision, longevity, and aesthetic discipline. Korea represents origin, identity, and emotional ownership. By appearing simultaneously across these editions, Jungkook did something no K-pop artist had ever done at this scale. He collapsed geographical hierarchies into a single image cycle, forcing the industry to read him not as a regional export, but as a centralized axis of global pop culture. And this is where Calvin Klein enters the picture, not as a fashion collaborator, but as a strategic amplifier. The images released via Calvin Klein's official Instagram on January 7, 2026, did not scream extravagance. There were no exaggerated silhouettes, no theatrical excess. Instead, there was restraint, denim on denim, a tank top, a leather jacket, the aesthetics of permanence rather than trend. Calvin Klein's caption was short, almost cryptic, in his element. Those 3 words carried more weight than any press release, because they implied something radical. Jungkook was not adapting to the brand. The brand was orbiting him. Photographed by Taeyo Kuka Jr. and styled by Kim Venchi, the visuals rejected idol ornamentation in favor of authority. Jungkook did not pose. He occupied. His gaze did not invite approval. It assumed it. This was not the language of a model. This was the language of control, and the numbers responded instantly. Hundreds of thousands of likes, thousands of comments within hours. Fans did not speak as consumers. They spoke as witnesses. Words like perfection and proud moment repeated not because of beauty, but because of recognition. The recognition that something irreversible had occurred, because beauty fades. Power does not. This was not Jungkook being styled by Western fashion. This was Western fashion acknowledging that Jungkook no longer needs translation. The interview published by Rolling Stone UK on January 3, 2026, titled Jungkook, No Limits, only deepened the implications. The phrase itself felt less like a headline and more like a thesis statement. And inside it, Jungkook did not perform humility. He performed clarity. He spoke about Golden, his 2023 solo album that surpassed 6 billion streams on Spotify, not with triumph, but with dissatisfaction. He admitted regret. He admitted hunger. He admitted that success did not satisfy him. And in doing so, he revealed the most dangerous trait an artist can possess: dissatisfaction after victory. "I wish I could have done better," he said, referring to both songs and performances. But instead of sounding apologetic, the words sounded like a warning. Because artists who believe they have peaked slow down. Artists who believe they have not accelerate. Then came the military service point 18 months away from music. 18 months without creation. 18 months of enforced silence. For many artists, that would fracture momentum. For Jungkook, it distilled it. Serving as a cook during his enlistment, he described longing not as loss, but as fuel. The inability to create did not weaken him. It sharpened him. He spoke of desire accumulating, of ideas waiting, of ambition compressing under pressure. And when pressure releases, it does not leak. It explodes. Which brings us back to the covers. Why wait 18 months? Why did Calvin Klein admit, openly, that they waited for him? Because the industry understood something before the public did. Jungkook's absence was not a pause. It was an investment. When brands wait, it is not out of loyalty. It is out of calculation. And now, Jungkook is not returning alone. He confirmed that he is currently in Los Angeles with the other BTS members, preparing for their 2026 comeback. The phrase "liftoff" has been used, but perhaps that understates it. This is not a return to orbit. This is a recalibration of gravity, because Jungkook in 2026 is not the Jungkook of 2019. He is not even the Jungkook of 2023. He is an artist who has tasted individual domination and chosen collective resurgence. An artist who understands both singular power and group mythology. An artist who knows when to stand alone and when to merge, and this is where the triple cover becomes symbolic rather than promotional. 3 covers do not mean 3 markets. They mean 3 confirmations. Confirmation that Jungkook's influence is not localized. Confirmation that his image does not fracture across cultures. Confirmation that his narrative remains intact regardless of language. UK readers see legitimacy. Japanese readers see discipline. Korean readers see evolution. All see the same figure, and that figure is no longer asking permission. When Jungkook says, "I want to be an artist who creates the flow instead of being caught in it," he is not offering a motivational quote. He is stating a strategy. Flow creators dictate timelines. They decide when trends begin and when they end. Rolling Stone did not create this moment. It documented it because it had no choice. The real question now is not what Jungkook will do next. The real question is whether the global industry is prepared for an artist who understands power this well, this early, and this unapologetically, because this was never just a cover. This was a signal, and signals are never sent without a destination. If power is measured by who gets to decide the narrative, then the most unsettling truth for the global entertainment industry today is this: Jungkook no longer needs anyone to decide it for him. For decades, Western media institutions functioned as cultural gatekeepers. To appear on the cover of Rolling Stone was not simply exposure, it was initiation. It was an unspoken acknowledgement that an artist had finally crossed from popularity into legitimacy. Rock legends, pop disruptors, cultural rebels, they all pass through that symbolic doorway. But what happens when the artist arrives already crowned? The triple Rolling Stone cover featuring Jungkook did not feel like an invitation. It felt like a surrender, because Rolling Stone did not frame him as the next big thing. It framed him as a force already in motion. The language was not anticipatory. It was declarative. No limits.
No qualifiers.
No regional disclaimers. No genre containment. And this is where the industry felt the shift. Historically, Asian artists were contextualized. Their success explained. Their numbers justified. Their influence translated for Western comprehension. But Jungkook's coverage required none of that. There was no footnote explaining BTS. No primer on K-pop. No attempt to exoticize or soften his presence. Why? Because explanation is only necessary when authority is questioned. Jungkook's was not. The images themselves reinforce this reality. Denim is not accidental. Calvin Klein's 90s denim language carries historical weight. It evokes American cultural dominance, minimalism, permanence, and rebellion stripped of ornament. By placing Jungkook inside this visual vocabulary, the brand was not westernizing him. It was allowing him to occupy a space traditionally reserved for icons who define eras. The unsettling implication is this: Jungkook did not borrow Western aesthetics to gain power. He absorbed them and returned them unchanged, now bearing his imprint. And the audience noticed. Social media reactions were not limited to admiration. They carried something deeper: recognition. Fans spoke as if witnessing a milestone not just for Jungkook, but for representation itself. The language shifted from "he looks good" to "this feels historic." From "he deserves it" to "this changes things." Because it did, the UK cover mattered because it signaled acceptance by a culture that once defined pop supremacy. The Japan cover mattered because it reflected respect from a market obsessed with craft, discipline, and longevity. The Korea cover mattered because it completed the circle, grounding global domination back at home. 3 covers. One narrative. No fragmentation. This is where Jungkook's post-military reflections become crucial. During his 18 months of service, he did not release music. He did not appear in campaigns. He did not perform. The industry, trained to fear absence, assumed risk. But Jungkook framed absence as accumulation, desire unexpressed, creativity restrained, hunger intensified, and when he returned, he did not trickle back. He arrived fully formed. That restraint now reads as strategic maturity. In the Rolling Stone interview, Jungkook spoke openly about regret regarding his solo album Golden. This admission might seem counterintuitive for an artist whose numbers shattered records. 6 billion Spotify streams is not a failure by any metric. But Jungkook was not speaking as a chart competitor. He was speaking as a craftsman dissatisfied with his own ceiling. This is the psychological pivot that separates stars from architects. Artists who are satisfied replicate. Artists who are restless reinvent. And Jungkook's restlessness is what makes this moment dangerous for the industry, because he is no longer chasing validation. He is chasing evolution. The fashion world sensed this first. Calvin Klein did not rush him. They waited 18 months. That decision alone revealed everything. Brands do not wait unless they believe absence will increase value. In a fast content economy, waiting is an act of faith. Faith that Jungkook would not return diminished. Faith that when he returned, he would return larger than the system itself. And that faith paid off. But the most revealing element of this entire moment lies not in what Jungkook said, wore, or represented, but in what the industry did not do, and no one questioned his placement. No one debated whether he deserved 3 covers. No one framed it as overreach. Silence, in this case, was acceptance. And acceptance is power. Jungkook's presence now operates across music, fashion, and culture without dilution. He is not rebranded per market. He is not softened for Western audiences or intensified for Asian ones. He remains consistent. That consistency is what makes him untouchable, because inconsistency invites control. Consistency asserts authorship. BTS prepares for its 2026 comeback. Jungkook's positioning becomes even more fascinating. He is returning not as a protected Maknae, not as a supporting vocalist, but as an artist who has proven he can command the world alone and still choose the group. That choice is not regression. It is dominance. Only artists secure in their power can afford to share it. And that is why this Rolling Stone moment matters far beyond magazine sales. IT marks the collapse of the old hierarchy where Western platforms crowned global icons. Now, global icons elevate platforms simply by appearing. The question is no longer whether Jungkook belongs on the world stage. The question is whether the world stage can keep up with him, because this was never just a cover story. IT was a warning shot. And history tells us that when artists begin sending signals instead of asking permission, the era that follows looks nothing like the one before it. At what point does an idol stop being an idol? Is it when the charts are conquered? When the tours sell out? When the brand deals arrive? Or is it when the label itself can no longer contain the scale of the artist standing behind it? Because if the triple Rolling Stone cover proved anything, it proved this. The word idol is no longer sufficient to describe Jungkook. For years, the term functioned as both pedestal and cage. It elevated, but it limited. It framed artists as products of systems rather than authors of movements. It suggested discipline, performance, devotion, but rarely sovereignty. And yet, as Jungkook's image stared back from 3 global editions of Rolling Stone, something felt unmistakably different. This was not an idol being celebrated. This was a figure being acknowledged, and acknowledgement is what happens when power becomes undeniable. Consider the unspoken comparison now circulating quietly across industry circles. Jungkook is no longer measured against his peers. He is measured against archetypes, against the global male pop figures who defined eras, not genres, against artists whose presence altered fashion, redefined masculinity, and reshaped audience expectation across borders. The unsettling realization is this: Jungkook does not resemble them. He occupies the same category without imitation. Where Western icons often built mythology through rebellion or excess, Jungkook builds authority through restraint. Where scandal once fueled dominance, Jungkook's power emerges from control. Emotional control, image control, narrative control.